Hey everybody, welcome back. This is RobLive with James Chance. How we doing, Jim?
We're doing good, man. We're on a roll.
We're on a roll, 3 in a row today. And they say 3 is a charm. And in this case, it is, because I'm going to be honest with you guys. I really didn't think I could get this next guest into our studio. I haven't told him that yet, but I was like, he's coming? And we were all like, he's coming? Yeah, he's here. And so we're so excited to have with us the accomplished Tulare legend, Richard Torrez Sr. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity to show up.
Yes. No, thank you. Showing up, man. Thank you so much for being here. And so we have viewers from all over the United States. Some are out of the country. So I just want to give them a brief background on how I connected with you and who you are to us in the Central Valley. And so viewers from Ireland and from the country of Georgia and anyone who's not in the Central Valley, if you're in the United States, you know this, and there are some international people who are in the boxing world. You already know who Richard is. But for those who don't, Richard Torrez Sr. Was a former boxer, and we'll talk about his accolades as well. But he also trained his son. His son is Richard Kiki Torrez Jr., and his son became an Olympic silver medalist in the 2020 Olympics and is now a professional boxer with a record of 13-0. He's undefeated.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, in the heavyweight division. And so we are speaking with Kiki, or Richard Jr.'s father today, Richard. And so welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
They know you. And so
Okay.
I wanted to just share what I shared with you off camera with our audience to hear, and that is that when I became a parent, right, my wife says this, she said, it changed you in a way that, because, when you're young and wild and just by nature, you're self-centered to some degree, and then you take on a marriage, and then you have to learn to compromise, and then you have your first child. And then for all of us, we're blessed with more than one. But it changes you in a way where you start to see the world differently. And one of the ways that it changed me is that I started to look at my own parents, at the people who raised me and mentored me and sacrificed for me. And I started to appreciate them in a whole nother way because now I'm going through it. And so when I look at your son and all that he's accomplished, right, if I'm just another teenager or a boxing fan or an aspiring boxer who doesn't have children, I go, man, look at Kiki, man. He's doing all these things, which he is. Like I'm sure you tell him, hey, I can coach you as much as I want, but it's you in the ring,
Yep.
right? So there is that side to it, yes.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also, right, the side of who prepared him. Whose shoulders is he standing on? Who put in the sacrifice to put him in the position he's in today? And here's some quotes from him to just introduce who you are in his life. This is from Richard Kiki Torrez Jr., U.S. Olympic silver medalist and professional boxer, 13-0 record with 11 knockouts, IBF, WBO, WBC heavyweight title holder. And here's what he said about you. My dad was there every step of the way. He was there every training session, every birthday, his birthday, my sister's, my mom's. He sacrificed just as much, if not more, for me to be able to be here. He's been a crucial part of my game and my profession. And this part is what got me. He says, I would not fight if my dad wasn't in my corner. That's what he said about you. He also said that he trusts you completely to the fullest, and anything he told you to do, you did it because he knew that you were the guy that had his best interests.
100%.
And, I told you off camera, I kind of teared up because I could relate to that. We've all, Jim included, he has 2 daughters. I have 3 sons and a daughter, and we've all had the opportunity to coach our kids. And part of it for me was trying to give my kids the opportunity, some of them that I didn't have.
Yes.
In your case, you come from a lineage, and I want to recognize that. But just wanted to start by saying that as a parent and as a former youth coach, I really appreciate what you've done, and you've taken it to a level, right, all the way to the top, Richard. And so you figured it out, and that's what we want to share with today. But I want to start from the beginning here, if you wouldn't mind talking a little bit about who Manuel Torrez was.
Manuel Torrez is my dad. He was born in 1929 here in the Valley. in Hanford originally.
Oh, from Hanford.
Yep, born in Hanford, but they moved early to Tulare.
Okay.
Where my grandfather Juan Torres, who came from Fresnillo, Zacatecas, Mexico.
Oh,
and,
wow. Okay.
They migrated right after.
So your father was first generation here.
Yes. My grandfather and my grandmother migrated from Mexico in 1919. Right after the Revolution.
Yes.
And they started. My grandfather started farming. My dad was, a regular kid. He ran around, played sports, did all he could. Also farming, helping my grandfather farm because when you're a kid, you works the farm.
Yeah.
And then when one day when his uncle came home, he was in the military. His uncle came home and says, "Hey, talking about boxing, army and stuff." My dad's like, "Oh, I want to try that." His uncle says, "Nah, you're just a baby. We're not gonna do that." He goes, "No, I want to box. I want to try it." And so the more he made it, glamorized it, the more my dad wanted to box. So finally, my uncle put on the gloves with him, and my dad's 13, and my uncle's 18 or 20, and my uncle put it on him. He put it on him because
initiated him,
and then sat him down a couple of times with the punch, and then bloodied his nose. And after that, took off the gloves. My uncle told him, "Next time, it's going to be worse, so don't ask." Dad says, "Okay," and he's kind of hard headed at the when he's alive, and he started training. He had a determination of fire. He's going to become a good boxer, so he started training now the garage. He used to walk around the town with gloves. I heard stories of him walking around town with gloves on.
Wear the gloves, ready to go.
Look, hey, you want to spar? You want to spar? Looking for people to spar. And and then as time went on, people found out he was training, and they started coming to his area, watching him, training with him, and everything. And in 1945, he actually started the boxing club. And he started the boxing club for selfish reasons. He wanted sparring partners and people to work out with. So
if he built it, they will come.
Yep, and people just started coming, And he started doing the FFA fights that they had in Tulare. Old-time Tulare boxer Johnny Foster used to have a bar in town. They had Future Farmers America boxing matches there.
Oh, okay.
And, people just got experience. And then he went to COS, boxed for COS. They used to have boxing at that time.
Oh, okay.
And then transferred to...
Do they still have boxing there?
No.
That would be, man, we got to bring that back to the
that'd
community
be nice.
college.
That would be excellent. A lot of the four-year colleges have it now,
Yeah.
After he boxed at COS, he transferred to San Jose State. A gentleman named Dick Pertel was an Olympic coach way back in the day, and he just wanted to go find some more information. He was there for a while, boxed, and decided one day, Korean War was up, so he volunteered for the Korean War. He went into the war and then shut down the gym for a little bit, came back, and then started farming himself. The Tulare Police Department, a gentleman named Ed Monreal, came through and says, "Hey, we heard you boxed. We'd be willing to train some kids." And Pop said, "I don't know." So they came through, brought the kids to the house. We lived about 11 miles out of town, so they transported them to the house, and the gym restarted, and my dad built a boxing ring in the middle of a carport, and then put the bags up hanging on the beams of the house, and then finally built a gym, ring in the back, put it in the backyard. People would come by in the midsummer days, nights, and watch us spar out there in the fighting mosquitoes. And
How old were you at this time?
When I'm probably about 7.
And this, when you're referring to the gym, you're talking about the Tulare Athletic Boxing Club?
Correct.
And that still exists?
That still exists.
Since 1945 to now?
Yes. So then I was 7 years old, and, you're living on a farm, and there's nobody out there, Yeah. And the closest people were my uncle, John. He lived a quarter mile away, and he had no kids my age, So when people started coming out to the house and training, I just kind of hung around, seeing what they're doing, held their feet when they're doing push-ups, try to hold the bag, get the gloves for them and stuff. And they said, "Hey, do some push-ups, do this and do that." And so I started following along and just started working out with them. And Pops finally asked me, "Hey, you want to box?"
How old were you when he finally asked?
Right off the bat. Off the bat. I'm probably about 7 and a half.
So he's like,
"Hey, let's go. You want to do this?" And I'm thinking, I'm in awe of my dad. He was a great guy.
Yeah.
And Pops wants me to do it. Hey, I'll do it. So I didn't know what I was getting into. So I got in the ring, and there's nobody my size and my age. So he put me up with a couple of guys. One of the guys that sparred, and I'll give him a shout out, was William Cates, and he was probably a couple years older than me, a few pounds bigger than me, and he hit me, and it hurt.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I don't want to do this no more. I don't like this. And, I didn't want to disappoint Pop, so I just kind of continued to do it. and got in the ring as much as he told me. So, and then finally one day he says, "We got to go spar. We're going into the town. We're going to another town to spar." I don't want to do this, but Pops is going, so I have to go. And then on the way back after sparring, we stopped at McDonald's. I was hooked. That was it. That was it. McDonald's and stuff. I got to get off the farm. Got to get some, some food from the restaurant, and so that was my motivating factor initially to get off that, to get off the farm and enjoy myself. And then as time went on, I just continued with it, here, there, fighting, and then finally, about 14 years old, it clicked, and I started really progressing.
So, at that time, this is what, the 80s?
72, 71.
And when you decide to get serious about it, is most of your training happening at the Tulare Athletic Club? Is that where?
Oh, yeah. Up until I was 14, 15, everything's at Tulare Athletic Club. We go to other clubs and spar and things like that.
And so you would compete with the local?
Oh, yes. Club. We had an association. My dad started the Central California Association.
Your dad started that?
He started that.
Oh, my God. So he's like the pioneer of boxing in the Central Valley.
Yeah, he loved the sport, and he loved working with kids and working with other individuals. One time, his truck broke down, and somebody needed a boxing ring. He had a boxing ring. I still have it. Yeah. And they couldn't have the show without the boxing ring, so the truck's broken. He says, He looked at my mom and said, "I'm going to use your car." He welded a hitch to the back of her car. And he took
what kind of car she have?
I don't know. It was a family car. You know what I mean?
She just welded it on. He
welded it on. My mom's like, "Oh, come on, yeah." But she had a hitch on the back of her car in case she needed to transport something. But he took it, and he just loved boxing. So yeah, that was about 71, 72, and then just training with everybody there. People would come to the gym and spar, and in that time and stuff, somebody come off the street real easy. "Hey, I want to box. Get in the ring." Now it's a little more limited, but and then when I got to be 14, I went to my first nationals, and then it started changing up a little bit.
That's when it got serious for you?
That's when I started getting serious about it. Like, about 14.
I could go somewhere with this.
Hey, I'm all right. I can do this.
Yeah.
And so,
do you remember your first real fight, in the ring with a crowd and good competition? Do you remember that?
It was. It's a blur a little bit. I remember bits and pieces of it.
Yeah.
I remember stepping in the ring. I remember.
Here's why I want to ask.
Good.
And Jim, you might know this a little bit more than I do, but I grew up playing team sports. Mm-hmm. So if I'm having a bad game or I make a mistake, I can kind of hide within the commotion of a team, right? In this case, soccer, football, baseball. But in boxing,
you're on the show.
It's just you. Mm-hmm. And so it's a whole different type of pressure. But there's also this sense of control, right? Like it's on me, so I don't have to rely on anybody else. But if it doesn't go well, there's nowhere to hide.
Nowhere to hide. And I tell my kids that all the time. I tell my boy that, growing up, I said, "Hey, this is a egocentric sport. You are the show, okay? So you have to have the confidence coming in to know that you are the show. People come and see you, and you got to perform. There's nowhere to hide. There's nowhere to hide once that's on. Whatever you didn't do in the gym is going to show up in the ring. So I tell these kids, the kids, at the gym, it says, why are you here? You're here to accomplish something. So let's go. Let's get working.
Because you will get exposed.
You'll get exposed. Yeah. I have thousands of kids come through since I've been in charge of the gym, which I took over in 2000 when my dad died. I took it over, and thousands of kids I've come in contact with. They'll walk, "Hey, coach, how you doing?" I don't remember. So, they drop off very quickly and stuff because this is a very difficult sport.
So it kind of like one of those sports where it filters people out on their own. Mm-hmm. You don't have to not invite them back. They just stop coming.
They just stop coming. And there's been instances in the past where I've asked boxers, "Hey, you're tough enough, but a little too tough. I don't want you to get hit that much and stuff. I'd go do another sport." Because, my ultimate goal is not to get anybody hurt.
Yeah.
To benefit from the sport, but not to get hurt.
And if they're taking too much damage, you're going to get hurt.
Yeah, some guys are too tough for their own good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Some guys are just guts and glory, and they want it all, and they just don't have, my opinion, talent. Does that mean they stop boxing? Sometimes they go to another gym and do what they need to do. But, I found that off my conscience. I didn't get anybody hurt.
Yeah, you know what I think of when you say that is what was his name? because I watch boxing, but I'm not 100%. Gotti?
Yeah, Arturo Gotti.
That he had this series with another guy,
And they were just Mickey Ward.
Yeah, and it was blow for blow.
Blow for blow.
They weren't even like and I'm thinking that this is exciting to watch, but I'm seeing some damage.
Yep.
You know what I mean?
And that's the big fear. People. My wife is not a boxing fan per se. I had stopped boxing. I started all the time I was boxing and going through the ranks and trying to make a name for myself. I continued my education. You talk to some old time fighters that were with me and go on trips and everything. I'd have my backpack with books. And I'd be studying and trying to make it work.
Where'd that come from? That idea to keep the education going?
You know what? Pops, my dad. He's like, hey, you got to get that education. Got to get that education. It was very much so. And you know what? And I knew early on that the farm life. Some people see in big fancy cars down around the farm. That wasn't me, man. I had no car. I walked every place. And,
oh man.
But at that time, I was like, I knew that I didn't want to be in the farming.
Yeah.
It was too hard to work and not enough to pay.
Something else.
I'm going to go someplace else. And the easiest access was education. So I figured I didn't know the hell I was going to do. I was going to go just keep going. And then finally, I went with the flow, and it kind of directed me into education because I was going to be an athletic trainer. I went to Fresno State as an athletic trainer.
Okay.
And then I didn't do the hours to become an official trainer. I just did the bookwork, and then I graduated with the Allied Careers degree, which is not really very much of anything. But, I had a college degree, so I got my CBEST and all those things and started subbing because it was easy money and figured I could figure out something along the way.
Yeah.
And then they offered me a job in my old school, Paulo Verde, saying, you do real well with these kids. You want a job? Yeah, I'll take a job. Who won't?
There it was. Well, you skipped over something that I thought was pretty significant, and I didn't know this about you. So I did my homework. Jim, when we talk about Richard, right, he was the trained by your father, and you went to the Olympic trials in 84.
84.
They don't just invite anybody.
You got to qualify.
That's what I'm saying. So you had a solid career yourself.
Yeah, I did well. I had 266 fights.
That's a
lot of fights. And, I was 226 and 40. And that was one of the points I was going back to and stuff about people don't realize they want to sit back and they say, they ain't fighting. They got to get in there and fight a little more. Getting punched takes a toll. I don't care who it is. My wife, I was alluding to the fact that she didn't know any boxing. She didn't know I boxed until after about 6 months into
She's
her.
from Michigan, right?
She's from Michigan.
How did you guys end up
She was teaching. She was a teacher at Paulo Verde.
Oh, okay.
And I just happened to start subbing, putting my name in all the schools to sub.
Yeah.
And Paulo Verde called me, and I was teaching and stuff, and she said she took a liking to me. And, I still remember the first time I tried to talk to her. I said, you look very good today. She looked at me and she says, what, I didn't look good yesterday? And walked away. And I'm like, I blew that one.
You're like, I'm going to marry that
one. I said, no,
That's a great line.
I'm going to stay away from her because she's too much for me. So, but you know what? We knew each other for a year or two, and she was teaching. She taught my nephew.
Oh, okay.
And my nephew, she was a great teacher. And my sister says, hey, you go check out his teacher, man. She's kind of lady you like. And I said, well, I'll go see. And and we started subbing and stuff, just started talking. Our first date, we ran 13 miles together.
That was the date?
That was the date.
You're like, we're going to do half a marathon.
You're going to do it, let's go. And, but, and it just increased my interest in her because she can handle that, distance.
Yeah, that's not a walk in the park.
No, I think it was her test for me too. She said that if she had to come pick me up in the car, the date would have been over. Yeah, no more interest. Yeah,
I've never heard of 13 miles, and then it's still married to this day.
Still married to this day.
2 beautiful children.
It
worked out.
Yeah, but the boxing part of it and stuff. When people say, they're not fighting, they're not, they're scared. Anybody who gets into that ring. People do not know when you step in that ring for the first time. So, I fight all the time. I do this. I'm a street fighter and stuff. Yeah, but you're fighting because you're either drunk, you're mad, there's something, another emotion involved. And so you get into that box ring, stone cold sober, not mad at anybody, looking across that ring and thinking that guy's gonna come hit me in my face. And you're like, it just tears down, man. There's a gentleman named John Scully.
Yeah.
Iceman, they call him. And he's big into amateur boxing and stuff. He was a good top flight amateur boxer, fought pros for a while. But he has a quote saying something to the fact that nobody knows the difficulty of sitting in the corner. I'm paraphrasing, sitting in the dressing room the hour before the fight.
I was going to ask you about that.
Because that hour before the fight, what do? You sit there quiet, you're thinking about it. He says something to the fact that hour will tear down most men because it just wears you out. You see some boxers go in the ring and they'll get in the ring and they're tired already. You know, what's wrong with them? I've seen them many times. So that stress shot up the cortisol, shoots up their adrenaline. They get in the ring and they're tired already because they wore themselves out and stuff. Because it is so difficult to do that, to get in the ring and get punched with no anger.
So I want to ask this for the amateur boxer who's coming up, the young boxer who's thinking about this, right? Male, female, doesn't matter. What advice would you give a young boxer who's trying to manage that hour and a half before the fight to keep them even or calm or from releasing too much of their energy?
You know, you have to learn, because it's a learned behavior. You have to learn how to control that. Custy Amato would say, you want that fire in a boxer. You just know how to control that fire. The fire can warm you, or it can burn down a house. You don't want to be the house that burns down. So you have to learn how to control it. You got to find the right people around you who give you the right idea. I've heard coaches talk to their kids, let's go, we're going to win. We're gonna, just hyping themselves. Sometimes it works. As a coach, you need to know your boxer. Some boxers, you need to calm them down, get them, play some music for them, relax them, tell them jokes, things like that. Other boxers, you got to kick them in the butt, and say, hey, let's go, we're going to do this. You're going to win this. You've been training all this time. You just got to know your boxers and stuff. So a boxer, you just got to find the right team, and there's an old saying that if you got to dance with who took you to the dance. Many times fighters will, fail, or they'll have a bad fight or whatever it may be, and ultimately it's the boxer. The coach has a lot of responsibility and he's got to train the right way and stuff. Yeah. And sometimes the boxer doesn't perform the way he wants to, but we're so egocentric as in boxers because we're the show that it cannot be mean. I can't let my ego take that blow. That it was me that I didn't train. It was me that didn't do it. It was me that was scared going in there. It was me. So what I do is I look at other people. The coach didn't do what he wanted to do. And then as you get up in the ranks, everybody's feeding you. Everybody's got something to say to you. Oh, you're the best. You don't need him. You're the best. I got you. You can do this and stuff. And if you don't have a loyal person, somebody who trusts in you and stuff, it's very easy to take them away. It's very easy to get them to do something because they start not being successful. They're looking for a successful avenue. And ultimately, sometimes it could be that they need to retire. It needs that they just need to refocus and listen to their coach a little more.
So, I was going to ask about that. I'm glad you brought that up. You've been training your son since
birth.
Since birth, right? I've seen pictures. 6, 7 years old. You guys are in there in the gym hanging out, and now, right? Kiki's become what he's become. He's an Olympic silver medalist, and now he's a professional fighter. Mm-hmm. What I've seen, and Jim, feel free to chime in on this too. I've seen boxers, who get to that elite status, and now you've got the promoter coming in, or they lose a mentor. In the case of when you look at Mike Tyson, right, when Cuss passed, that was kind of a transition stage for him, and now he's in the papers for all the wrong reasons, things like that. And I look at your situation here, and it's just so fortunate that Kiki has his father in his corner, right? You're there for him. Do you find that there are different challenges now that you're on this level that weren't there before in terms of, this promoter or even, I would never dare to do this just because I know better as a person, but has anyone come in and said, hey, Kiki, maybe you want to switch up your trainer?
Oh, 100%.
Well, how do you do that when it's your dad?
100%. There's been other managers. So I'm Kiki's manager trainer.
Okay.
Okay. So the promotional company is Top Rank.
Yeah.
Great platform. They do awesome job, great matchmaking and stuff. So we shopped around for a while and stuff. But prior to that, when he came out on Olympics, or prior to Olympics, people start saying, oh, who's coming up? Who's the next guy coming out? And manager will say, they'll start waiting at the door. Hey, we want to talk to you. We want to see what you can give us. So there's been other managers, and you talk to them for a little bit. You got to court them, Court them. In fact, one of my managers once told me, hey, Rich, we're not courting anymore. We're dating pretty serious. We're engaged.
Okay.
And that wasn't one we went with, but as time goes on and stuff, and you talk to them, you kind of figure out their angle. You got to be very observant, and very careful and crucial, and as far as the kid's safety. But we pulled away from that. Okay, so I'm his manager, trainer, and stuff. One of the hardest parts is keeping that line between dad and trainer.
I was gonna say, yeah.
Many times I see this. I've never been one to want. He's not me, and I'm not him.
Yeah.
His success, yes, reflects on me, but that's not my success. My success is a little different. I'm successful because I helped him get there and stuff. When he turned pro, I says, you know what? If you want to turn pro, we'll turn pro, but please bring me along for the ride. I think it'd be a ride, but this is your ride. So it's important to know that many dads will say, it's me and stuff. You hear that all the time, very boisterous person and very whatever.
Yeah.
I'm not about that and stuff. So redirect your question to me again. Tell me your question again.
Oh, have there been any challenges in terms of you having people approach and say, maybe Richard needs a different direction, or a trainer, or replacing you?
Yeah. As I said before, a couple managers tried to do that, and we talked to him. He says, what is the goal? Who's going to be the manager? I want my dad to be co-manager. He wants someone. Oh, we're not going to do that or no. Okay, yeah. Bye. Because they don't see the effort, the time that we put into it and stuff. My boy walked into a room, and I can tell you, boom, he's in a bad mood. He walked in the room and says, boom, something's wrong. I can tell this kid. I've seen him.
No one knows him better than you and your wife.
I've seen him at his worst.
Yeah.
I've seen him at his best. I've seen him when he reached out to me. I know him. We walk in the same shoes almost sometimes. Yeah. And he'll walk in, and if I'm in a bad mood or something, he can sense that. What I mean? We're very, very close and stuff. So I just want to make sure that he's safe. I lose my track sometimes.
Well, I wanted to chime in. I coach my daughter's tennis team, and one of the biggest things that she would tell me is, like, she would critique me, like, Dad, you've said this to me 1,000 times. I already get it. I get it. I go, but I'm not seeing what you're getting. Like, I'm not seeing it. And we would pay for her to go see a professional or some, a club, trainer. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I'm sitting back thinking, she's doing the same damn thing I just told her, but she's hearing it from another person, right?
Yep.
So it's like, they don't want to hear from Dad. They don't want to hear it. I'm an educator. I even have my kids as sometimes in my class as students. They don't want me to lecture them, but the same lectures from someone else, they'll accept it. Is that you? Did you fall in that same boat?
Yes. It just doesn't happen to my son or family members. It happens to all the boxers. It happens to anybody in the team and stuff. I have these kids I've had since 8 years old. They're 16 now and stuff, and they come through. I'll have one of my assistants, one of my other guys that help me out in the corner sometimes, they're from LA. They come through and stuff, and all of a sudden, man, the kids lit up. Hey, tell me, help me. I think, I just told them that.
He's here from the LA guy.
But here, there's a saying,
flashy jumpsuit on.
Boxing and stuff, a different license number, a different license, out-of-state license, they're great. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the kids sometimes, but as time goes on, the guys who come in, if you're a legit coach and stuff, you go into another gym. You go into another gym. You don't try to take boxers. You don't go talk to the boxers. You know what? You go address the coach and stuff. But sometimes the guys will come in and say, "Hey, come here, let me talk to you." And and they're trying to take your boxers and stuff. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. I'm sure it's in other sports also, but I just because there's a boxing. But they come through and even my boys sometimes say, "Hey, Pops, did you know this, and this?" Yeah, I know that. And, 'cause we talked about it, but it just comes from a different perspective,
Well, and they tend to block out what dad has told them, but then they open it up when another person is telling them the same thing. They're like, "Oh, did you know this? Did you?" Yeah, I've been telling you that for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
from a different messenger.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. So you got to be careful. I found out the careful and stuff. And you can't say, "I told you."
Oh, 100%.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, let's try that. Come on.
Yeah.
That's
ultimately,
smart.
what you
I'm gonna try
want.
that.
Ultimately, what do you want? You want them to be successful.
Sure.
Yeah.
Are they doing the procedure or the skill or the movement you want them to do?
Well, and as a good coach, you sit back and say, it's just you pat yourself on the back. Like, okay, at least they're doing what we originally talked about.
I don't care where it comes from, as long as you're doing what we think need you to do to be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to ask you about a very special moment, and I'm sure it was special for you too. In many interviews, Kiki has referred to this idea that he talked about wanting to be the Olympics at like 7, 8 years old, and now you in the corner, he's in the ring, and you guys are at the Olympics. What was that moment like to have something you talked about for so long become a reality?
So just a heads up and everything. The Olympics was the COVID Olympics, so I didn't get to go.
What?
Nope, I didn't get to go. Me and my wife,
So how did the training thing work in the corners?
Well, we had Coach Billy Walsh. He is from Ireland, but he's a USA coach. Awesome guy. Me and him, in fact, our connection is we fought the same guy in the amateurs. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
He knocked him out. I lost to him, but But Billy was a great guy. And one of the things people would tell me, why are you giving your boy to the Olympic Training Center? You're going to lose him. What are you talking about? I'm going to lose him and stuff. If I lose him that way and stuff, he was never really mine to train or anything. He's going to find somebody else. But this is an awesome opportunity. Where can you get the knowledge from the Olympic Training Center? He was a resident there for 4 years. He gets all access to all the gym. He gets medical doctors, psychologists, everybody, so coachability, and he gets to travel the world, boxing future competitors, and they bring him in and stuff. How can I lose him like that? So, but it was awesome that he was able to do that. I lose my track, guys. Sorry.
No, that's fine. And one thing that I thought about when I was preparing for this interview, I thought about how I've seen sometimes with the father-son relationship in boxing doesn't always work out.
Exactly, and that's all.
Floyd Mayweather, Sr. and Jr. Right?
It's hard because you got to separate yourself a lot. You got to separate. Okay, I'm his coach right now. I'm his coach. I can't do that. And so you got to remember very much that it's not me. That's not me. Because sometimes, unfortunately, dads will try to live through their kid.
Yeah.
And say, you're going to be a world champion. And says, I never asked my son to do nothing that I didn't do. Hey, I need you to go run another mile. Oh, I don't want to. I'm tired. I remember those days. I did my other mile. Hey, those exercises, the gym routine that we did it for years, many years, and so still doing it. Those guys.
Well, I want to mention something about your routine, Jim. I don't know if you've seen this footage, but there's footage of Kiki doing things outside the routine for strength, and there was one. I think he was throwing rocks.
Yeah.
And another one, he's like digging holes and stuff. Is that to break up the monotony of regular training, or is it just a different way of doing things? Like, how do you come up with this?
Both. I mean, I remember, because I grew up on the farm, like I said before.
Yeah.
My dad grew up on the farm too. My dad was insanely strong. He wasn't a really big guy and stuff, probably 5'9", but man, I tell you what, he's strong as heck. But, farm work, and you start thinking, he used to tell me, you want to go to the gym, go out there and dig that, make a dam, irrigate the field, make a dam, water, irrigate, walking through the mud with your water boots and stuff. That's all the workout. You should be paying me. Like, so, doing that, I really, I'm a little stronger than the guys, a little more conditioning and stuff. So I just kind of incorporated it. You look at the old fighters, Jack Dempsey, Joe Frazier, they're doing sawing wood, throwing rocks, things like that, Rocky Marciano. It's a great overall body workout. It changes it up also, because you don't want to get the burnout. Burnout comes from staying in that gym all the time, seeing no sunlight. But now we're out there doing those things, throwing rocks, busting cement up, digging holes, carrying buckets, just things like that. that if some of the audience knows some of the old timers and old farmers stuff, they're strong as heck.
That's very creative.
It's cool watching the movies of like Rocky and stuff where you see that moment where he's pulled himself away from the gym life, and now he's chopping wood. He's punching a side of beef, and running and doing, dragging the whatever it is that does the disc for the horses and stuff.
Oh yeah,
it's like all these and it's the underdog look. It's almost like, oh man, this guy has all this rich training and awesome equipment and everything, but this guy's like, pulling.
That's when he fought the Russian.
Yeah, the Russian guy. It was all this high tech stuff, and then he's like, digging a ditch and chopping wood and stuff, and then the outcome. So.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with the high stuff, high stuff and stuff, because Colorado Springs does that. They have oxygen room, they have the climate room and all those things. It's wonderful. All the weight room stuff. We got
the facilities.
Jose, is our weight and strength conditioning coach, and that's awesome and stuff. But they got to break it up a little bit. I mean,
and it doesn't still make them a better fighter.
No.
Yeah.
You know what I see too in your approach, because I'm a fellow educator. Mm-hmm. You have the teaching background, right? And so I think what I see you doing a lot too is, like, let's say we're in the classroom, right? If I'm doing the same type of lesson with the same method, at some point my students they want out. Yeah. And so you got to mix it up.
Yeah.
So I see some of your teaching background in the way that you approach training Kiki, because I see you mixing it up and trying to make it interesting and try to accomplish the same thing through a different method. Do you feel like you have an edge as a trainer because you were an educator?
Nah, there's a lot of good guys out there. I found my niche. One of the good things about training my son and him being successful is it validates my reasoning, it validates my training methods, it validates all those things. So, because I've had other fighters that were good, but they went off someplace else or they didn't accomplish what they needed to do. And one of the things, if I tell a fighter, I need you to go run 2 miles, I expect to go run 2 miles. I'm not going to babysit you, especially when they get older. I says 2 miles, let's go. And they come back and stuff. And, there've been times, I'm sure, the other people boxers say, oh, Torrez doesn't know what he's talking about. He's not doing this, this, and this. I says, no, I'm doing what I need to do. You need to do what you need to do. That means follow the routine, follow the plan. I always said, we have a plan. There's a plan out there. Follow the plan. And when my son's successful, and his success and everything is he followed the plan. So it validates my ideology.
Yeah, I could totally see how that would. Now, is the gym always packed?
You know what?
Because people want to work with Richard.
Yeah, the gym's packed. We got
Richard Sr.'s the trainer there. I want to go. I want to go.
I got good guys that with me around stuff, because I don't need to burn out either. I've been doing this, since 2000. And, my wife every now and then says, hey, you got a wife and you got a daughter here,
Yeah.
We need some time with you. So,
Maggie needs some time.
Maggie's she's
okay. I heard a cool story about her. I want to just give you a shout out as a father. So you were traveling because, as Kiki's trainer, you guys go all these different places.
The time, yep.
Your daughter, there was something, I'm trying to remember what it was. It was her favorite thing, and she couldn't get anywhere else. You took time out of your training. You found it. I don't remember if it was like a collectible doll or something. It was like from Japan or somewhere, and you brought it home to Maggie.
We tried to do that.
And she was like, I can't believe my dad, because you have this big task at hand where you're trying to prepare a professional fighter, and yet you still had the presence of mind to say, hey, my daughter Maggie loves this. Let me make sure I bring that to her. And you brought it home to her. She talked about it in an interview.
My wife and daughter, the world, to me and my boy and stuff. We have this saying in our group and stuff. We have a kill circle. We don't let anybody in a kill circle. We keep each other tight. We know who we trust. We know that we're all looking out for each other, and we don't let anybody else in that circle. I try to bring, my wife. He missed my his sister's birthday probably like 10 years in a row because we were in that boxing show and stuff.
Yeah.
And they understand the process. They understand what we need. Still hurts, so it's still uncomfortable. But daughter's awesome. I wish she could have been a boxer, but we didn't. She wanted to be a boxer a little bit. And I said, well, Maggie, she hit hard and everything, but you see that person right there? They got that knot in her nose. That comes from getting punched in the face. Do you want that knot in the nose? Oh no! So she didn't want to do it, but she worked out and stuff.
She has her own path.
She did water polo. They won Valley Championships. And
is this Mission Oak?
She went to Tulare Union.
Oh, she went to Tulare Union.
Yeah.
Your son went to Mission Oak, and he has the gym named after him.
Yeah, the gym.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And the only reason that is because they didn't have a stadium there. Yeah, because they don't have a stadium.
Oh, yeah.
And
it's a newer school, right?
It's a newer school, yes.
Relative, compared to Union and Western.
Western, yes. So
where'd you go to high school?
Tulare Union.
Oh, so you went to Union.
Yeah. So, I thought it'd be good for him to get away from the name, a little bit. But, yeah, he didn't get a chance to do that. Everybody knew. We know the whole town, So
I have a question. The thing that I know as a father, do you see yourself, and I could probably answer this question, but do you see that your son has overachieved the things where you've stopped? Like, you know how people say, man, I wish I knew as much as he does at his age, at my time type thing.
Yeah, my boy still, there's some parts of him. He's a sheltered athlete. Okay, he's a sheltered athlete, and there's certain things that the street stuff, and he's learned when he went to Colorado Springs. He lived there for 4 years, and a lot of the kids he met, his buddies are, East Coast, New York, Ohio, things like that. So they had a rough life, and they kind of taught him and stuff. But yeah, it's been told to my son by when his agent, your dad's the only one that's going to be happy when you're better than he is, and that's the truth. When he's successful, I just beam with the pride. I'm just happy and stuff.
Yeah. Well, and then on the other thing too, you have 2 kids.
Two kids.
Mm-hmm. So what I've learned is, Robert, we've talked about this, but I had a kid that shined in my ASB department. She was my vice president in ASB leadership, and then my youngest daughter was like, "What are we going to do? Because you did all that time with her. What are we going to do?" So now I'm her coach. But it's kind of where you're like, oh, shoot, I have another kid. I can't put all my eggs in one basket and stuff. And how do you balance that in a household to where you're like, Mija, I got to be with him. And she's like, well, what the heck, Dad? I haven't been here. Have you had those issues? Would you?
And there for a while we did.
Yeah.
And my dad used to say, we'd ask him sometimes, hey, why are you doing this for them? My other brother and sister and everything. And he goes, we put water where the fire is the hottest. That's where you put it in stuff. So there's been times where she was like, hey, what about me? And my wife comes through me, hey, your daughter has this. So I try to change practice, cancel practice, go do something and stuff. Well, she was awesome. She played at Fresno City water polo. She played COS soccer, and they won the Valley as a water polo for Tulare Union, and she played rugby for a little bit. She's athletic as could be and everything, but she understood. And as she's gotten older at this point, she says, "No, you guys did a good job." She understood the process. She understood the goals that I made and stuff. And we just love her. Maggie, it's my daughter. We adore her, and anything she needs, she'll pops. I need to go move something that she lives in Lake Isabella. I need something moved. I need something. Okay, let's go. Boom. Let's go. Boom. We'll run to her stuff whenever she needs something. My boys, hey, take care of it. That's a different way to operate and different. But yeah, just been time where she says, hey, what about me? And sometimes, and it's funny because both kids say, hey, they get more than me. Hey, they're getting more than me. Like, what are you talking about? We give what we can.
Trying to balance.
One. Yeah.
One thing that I really enjoy about the Torrez family, and you see success happen, right? And then you realize that some of the resources, if I want to grow this in a certain way or I want to expand, sometimes it's like we get pulled out of the Central Valley, right? I'm sure there have been countless offers to take yourself, Kiki, the family, and hey, if we bring you guys to LA, we got more opportunity. If you move for boxers, I feel like Vegas is a
hub.
What keeps you in Tulare?
That base, that ground and stuff. Because when you get to a point where my boy's at, and I just touched the tip of the flame with the boxing and stuff. But I remember that. Man, you walk through town and everybody knows, hey, there goes Richard. Hey, there goes Senior. Hey, you're a good boxer. Oh, you can be world champion. Let me give you a soda. Let me give you. They just start coming like that and stuff. So I think that keeping my boy around Tulare kind of keeps him humbled because, hey, that's Richard. Yeah, we like him and everything. But, that's Richard. Everybody's known him since he's grown up. Kiki's there. They're friends like that. Ultimately, we'll have camps. We had a camp. Our last fight, we had a camp in Colorado Springs. So I was still working at the time. So I flew to Colorado Springs for like 3 days out of the week. Came back, worked, flew back over there for 4 weeks. So I was doing that for a while. But we'll be having camps periodically throughout, the probably in Vegas, maybe in LA and things like that. But we'll have it in Tulare also. But people, there's always naysayers out there that says, you can't do it out of a small town like that. Okay. You need this, and this on your side. You need this. Okay. And I agree. Some of those things we need to do, and we'll travel to do that. They don't understand. Well, we'll get some sparring coming up here next week when a guy called us up from Arizona and says, hey, I want some sparring. Do you mind coming over with us? Okay. We're going to travel 4 hours to LA for a day of sparring and come back. We're road warriors and we keep going. So, but sometimes people are kind of critical about saying you need to be someplace else. If it's not broke, don't fix it.
No. And I think for people like me who are outside of it, watching this all go down, Richard, people like you are so important to us because we have our upcoming boxers here from the Central Valley, and they want to know that they can do it too. They want to see someone who they recognize who's familiar from the same background, right? You and Kiki drink the same water as the rest of us.
Yep.
You suffer through the same heat in the summer, and you figured it out. So that means we can too. You guys are, by you staying, Richard, thank you for staying, but you are cementing this belief that I don't have to be from Vegas or LA or New York or a big city to be successful in the boxing industry or anything that I want to do.
Yep. It might be a little more difficult. You got to travel a little more, things like that. But the opportunities are there. You just got to take advantage of it. And truth of the matter is, would you rather come home to Tulare and sit in the heat or go to Vegas and be in the casino and all the people around with the big gym and stuff?
Yeah.
It's a preference of what you want to do and stuff. There's some comfort in familiarity. That gym, I remember traveling and being gone for 2 weeks, a month, 2 months at a time and coming home. And I remember my dad telling me when he came home from the military one time that he drove in through town and he saw the trees waving and it felt like the trees were saying, hey, man, where you been? And I says, I know that feeling now. I know that feeling, just knowing where the stores are and stuff. And there's some comfort in that, However, we go to wherever, he'll be. I'm sure I started getting invited to we got invited to a couple of camps overseas, but I was working at the time and I couldn't really.
Now 31 years.
Now I'm retired. So the opportunities there. We'll start taking those opportunities a little more and get some more sparring.
There's something I wanted to ask you about because I saw it happen firsthand. And Jim, I don't know if I've shared this story with you, but my older brother, Gus, he's an entrepreneur. He's a businessman, right? Mm-hmm. He takes a lot of risks, but he's very successful in some of these risks. And I remember around 2001, he opened a company. It was a mortgage company. It did really well at the time. And now, he's, I don't know exactly what his compensation was, but he's got this huge multi-million-dollar home and he's got, a different lifestyle. Mm-hmm. And Richard, I'm sure you can relate to this. All these people start coming out of the woodwork that I've never met before. And I remember this one time going out with him to a nightclub. I wasn't living in LA at the time yet because eventually I went to work for him. But at that time, I was visiting, right? And I remember going out to this nightclub and there had to be an entourage of about 15 different guys with him. And none of them were our friends from growing up. Like these were LA guys he had met. And no offense to them or anything, but I remember having like a $3,000 drink tab. Mm-hmm. And guess who paid it?
Yep.
Right? And I was like, okay, well, that's cool. He's helping out his friends, but I don't know these guys. These are all new guys to me. And then, things go south sometimes and financially you have struggles. Mm-hmm. And some of these, where's the crew?
Yep.
Now, with you guys and all and having the Olympic success and I'm sure an endorsement and things happening, did you start to feel like people were coming out of the woodwork or?
Yeah, exactly. And that happens all the time. Notoriety. You see one of those things on the internet. You just look, how much is Richard Torrez Kiki worth?
Oh, the network.
The network. And I says, damn, you're worth that much? So where's it at?
Where's it
yeah.
at?
And it's like, he goes, man, how can we get that? I go, I don't know how to get that number and stuff, but it's not what it is. So we have, my goal has always been to make sure that he stays financially secure. I know I have been successful when he sits on the beach one day, drinking whatever he wants to drink and stuff, and saying, Pops did me right. He made me invest. He made me do these things. We have a financial advisor, Derek, does an awesome job, Sometimes a boy gets kind of mad at him and says, hey, oh man, where's my money, I said, money's working for you and stuff. He's like the top 90% of people who have financial, security and just getting better. So, people come out to work all the time. And sometimes, I'll see him and he's talking to him and he's kind of, throwing a charm and stuff. And I was like, oh, I wonder if he's buying that.
Drinking that Kool-Aid?
Yeah. But as the time goes, I know Pops, but he's very good at that public, interest, or coming to talking to himself. You're talking about the kids acting different in school and stuff. When my boy was growing up, I'd say, hey, you want to have fun in school? Get involved. You want to do this? Do this. And I kept telling him, my daughter, a little different personality, a little shy and stuff, didn't do those things. So my boy, he became very outgoing and very talkative to everybody and stuff. And, people want to glom onto it. They want to attach to it and ride that success. But, there's an old saying that if you want to know who your friends are in boxing, see who's in the dressing room with you after you lose. See who's running with you when you're training. See who's getting up in the morning and doing those things. People are like that and stuff because they come around all the time.
Yeah. I saw something, I don't remember which television station was covering your story along with your son, and it made me feel like, oh, okay, I think he's on the right track. They were showing Kiki with his friends, and I was like, all right, let me see. Is it going to be an entourage? It was his high school friend. They used to do rockets together.
Yep.
It wasn't who I pictured him hanging with, right? And the friend that he had, they were out in this field building rocket fuel and just doing fun kid stuff.
Yep.
And I was like, that's who he needs to be around.
And he still has that core. He still go away for a trip and he'll come back and, hey, Allah, hey, Christian, hey, he has a core group that he still hangs out with, and they keep him settled to keep him, grounded to Tulare.
You need that.
I think that says a lot by having you not have moved away to take him away from that core of coming home to, being around his friends and everything.
Yeah, that security's everything. It's. I remember asking my father-in-law when they're a little older, telling my wife, hey, ask your dad if he wants to move out here. Say, we can sell this house, get a little bigger house, and mother-in-law's quarters and things like that and stuff. And he goes, Rich, thank you, I appreciate that offer, but there's something to say about knowing where the corner store is. There's something to say that, my friends are here. There's there's that grounding and stuff. He stayed there. He stayed there as he passed away and everything. But, yeah, that comfort, it's always good to know you have someplace to come home to.
Yeah. Speaking of keeping you grounded, I'm going to pull this thread up. These are 15 friends from high school. They got the nickname Sauce Crew, and I think it came from with Latinos, we have certain sound effects we make. And then I palo y ya le pegué en sauce, and so the word sauce. So the Sauce Crew, they are all avid boxing fans. They know everything about your son and the work you've done. And so I said, hey, guys, Richard's coming. They're like, what? So you have any questions? So here's a few questions from the Sauce Crew, okay? So the first one says...
By who? Who's that? You got to give him credit.
All right, this is GM Gabriel Marquez. He says, when is Kiki's next fight, and when will he be back fighting in the Valley?
So his next fight, I spoke to the promotional company, Top Rank, and specifically Carl, and he just says, sometime in September, with the contract with ESPN being up, so they're looking for another platform to put that on. So that's kind of slowing things down. There's a lot of commotion going on as far as in the boxing world with Turk Ali from Saudi Arabia, what's his name, Dana White, all those guys coming in the mix and stuff. So it's slowing things down just a little bit, but we're hoping to have one in September. And then as far as coming back to the Valley, we're working on things to get here one this year. Him coming out for his debut in Fresno was awesome. We had another fight here scheduled, but he got hurt. We had to pull out of that one. But we want to come back to Fresno too. We're just working out the details.
Is there a big enough venue to fight in his hometown? Does Tulare have a venue big enough?
They probably could have it at the Farm Company show.
How cool would that be?
That'd be
for
cool.
him in Tulare. Like you gotta come to my place now. You know what I mean? Like Richard's going to all these places to fight, right? And he's now got a record now where it's like, you guys need to start coming to me. Come to Tulare, put us on the map.
Well, is he at a position where he would need to fight on air? Like you would want to televise it?
We'd want to, yeah. I mean, that's always good to put his name out there and do that.
Because Netflix is starting to add up on those fighting programs too. You see a lot of those.
Yes.
Programs.
So that's up to Top Rank.
Yeah.
Top Rank, being the promotional company, they kind of dictate to where we're going and where we're going to be fighting. So they'll conference me and talk to me about certain opponents, things like that, and then we come to agreement of the opponent. And then also the venue, things like that. So we'll see what happens with that. Okay,
GM, September and potentially in the Valley within 2025, if not early 2026.
Yeah, and you got to go to where the crowds are, right? Fresno is a great fight town.
Oh, yeah.
Fresno is a great fight town. And like he fought that first night here, man, the noise that the crowd made was deafening. My boys like...
That's because you stayed home. That's because you guys stayed home. Mm-hmm. Here's the next one. This comes from Mac, Ralph Cisneros, another big boxing fan with the Sauce Crew. He says, what are the characteristics, in your opinion, of a next-level boxer? When you look at a guy and go, this guy could fight at the next level, what do you see?
So let's go from the beginning. In order to have a boxer come into my gym, they have to have something to fight for, whether it be to prove something to themselves, prove something to somebody else, to, I had a young lady come into my gym and stuff who's a state champion. She's being bullied. They brought her in to give her more confidence, things like that. They have to have something to fight for, because the big question was for a long time, I'm an educator, my wife's an educator. We make decent money, good money and stuff. My boy didn't have to fight. He didn't need to fight. I told him, my wife, he has to box until he's 16. Then after that, you start fighting men. He makes his choice. Luckily for us, he was a good fighter. And so somebody who doesn't have nothing to fight for, it's easy to give up. They come to the gym, first step, can they handle the workout? Can they handle me scolding them and those things? So they come back the next day, check. They come back the next day and stuff, okay, we're going to start sparring, okay? They come back and spar, boom, they get hit.
The first hit, huh?
First hit, they come back the next day, check.
But you have guys who don't come back after the first hit.
Oh, heck yeah. I'll check. Or they don't come back because gym right now we have Mondays and Wednesdays are conditioning, Tuesday, Thursday sparring, and they won't come back on Tuesday, Thursdays. Because I tell them if you come on Tuesday, Thursday, you're sparring. Okay, so they get hit the first time, check, boom, they come back. Okay, so now they can get a boxing match, actually a boxing match and stuff in front of people. All that. It's a whole different environment, a whole different feeling. Your adrenaline goes up. You're scared.
That hour before.
That hour, just that whole day for a lot of guys and stuff. And then they get in there and they the first fight, boom. Hopefully they win. They win, boom, check. Next one, they have a loss. Are they going to come back? Check. They start checking all those off. The more checks they have for being a fighter and stuff, I got a fighter.
This is the filter.
This is the filter and stuff. I told the people all the time, well, how do you know your son's going to be a boxer? I didn't. I didn't know if he can handle the stress. I didn't know if he can handle the workouts of me being his coach. I didn't know all those things. But check. He got to the point where he's 16, going to fight men. He goes, Pops, I like this. Yes.
Inside the celebration, right?
Check and stuff. So, you got to make sure you're willing to pay the price that you may not get something back for.
Yeah, there's a risk, right?
There's a risk, I ultimately tell people, my dad used to say it, I try to say it around then, boxing is like fencing, we get the points, we just get the points and we don't really get hurt and blah, blah. truth of the matter is boxing is a brutal sport. The idea behind it is to incapacitate somebody, knock them out. So, I'm aware of that. My wife's aware of that. It makes him nervous. But my goal, my job is, I know my son. I know his baseline, basically.
Yeah.
Hey, we had enough. That's enough. And so, most of my fighters who come to the gym, and I tell them, I'll turn you pro. I'll go with you. I'll do this. But when I say it's over, it's over.
So you have the towel.
I have the towel.
If something's going out of control in the ring, you have the authority to throw in the towel?
Yeah, depending on the state and everything. Sometimes you tell the commission, hey, I want to stop the fight. Sometimes you just jump in yourself, throw the towel and stuff. But, that's not the worry part and stuff, because people really don't get too hurt during a fight. What the damage comes over long term for many fighters is the training. Yeah, remember he has a 4-week training camp, training 3-4 times, sparring 3 or 4 times a week. Going 8 to 10 rounds. Sometimes, depending on your coach and stuff. That's damage. It's like taking a little hammer to a big wall. Click, click, click. You hit that wall hard enough or long enough, that wall's going to fall sooner or later, right? Same thing with a person, the human mind. So it's Olympic Training Center. We send them up there. I send them up to the training center to get some sparring. Great coaching, great techniques, a lot of tic-tac, not all-out sparring. So if you go to these places, you get gym wars, you got to be careful with that. I've seen coaches come through and my fighters have hit them, boom, or my fighter gets hit, boom, and you just see them rock and stuff. And I've been at the sport long enough where I see him, oh, he's hurt. Stop. Give me a count. Hey, talk to me. Come over here and stuff. Hey, that's enough, guys. Hey, what are you doing that for? Let him fight. You get in here and get hit like that.
Exactly.
And you can't push a kid that hard. So
I'm
you
glad
burn
you
him
have
out.
that mindset.
Oh, yeah. So
it's easy to be on the outside, right?
It's easy to be on. Oh, yeah, it looks good. You all the blood and everything. But that's not your blood.
You're right. The next question I had here is, what's the most difficult part about coaching your own son?
Keeping that separation. It's no fun. My dad coached me. It's no fun going home with the coach.
Because you got to hear it on the ride home.
I don't do that. You know what I mean? I'll say, I'll try it. Every now and then, growing up, Sean probably got him and stuff. I remember going in the gym when he's younger and stuff. And one time, he came in the gym and he's mad at me for scolding and stuff. And he got in the ring and he wasn't punching. He was getting punched. And he's going to show me by getting hit. Stop. What's wrong with you, man? Don't do that. And so he didn't like when I say that. What's wrong with you? So pull him out, stop and stuff. Other times he'll go in the gym and he'll say, he's in the bag kind of half-ass, excuse me. And I say, hey, come on, let's go. Take off your stuff. Let's go get ready and stuff. Take him get an ice cream. Let's go do something else.
Oh, man. Richard, I wish I had done that more when I was with my sons.
Because, you
knew. I didn't know at the time.
Because, I liken it to a tree branch. You can bend that tree branch, but you can't bend it but it doesn't break.
Yeah.
Don't bend it so hard that it breaks and stuff. You got to know your kid and stuff. And I knew him pretty well, and so I said, that was a little too rough. That was hard. That hit him hard. Hey, come here. Let me talk to you. Hey, come here and stuff. Hey, stay out of the gym for a couple of days. Whatever it may be and stuff. Hey, we're going to go to the coast this weekend. Whatever it may be and stuff. You got to take that.
Balance.
Yeah,
right?
you got to get that balance stuff.
Yeah.
Because otherwise you burn them out and they start hating sport and you.
That happened to me. Yeah,
yeah, that was one of my same things. Is my daughter would get in the car after practice and she's like, I'm leaving practice here. I don't want to talk about it on the way home. Mm-hmm. And I'm like ready to rip into her. Like, what is wrong with you? You were, all this stuff.
You think it's right. You're right. You got to wait.
Yeah. So
the next question we had here was, outside of yourself, who do you think has the most impact on your son's boxing career?
My wife has a lot of impact. And so my wife, he has great respect for his mom, and he loves her very much, and my daughter, and so that's why we're so tight in the crew. And so he listens to what she says, but he knows that she doesn't have the boxing experience, things like that. So he just kind of says, that's mom, mom being emotional, whatever it may be. And so I think Coach Billy Walsh, the Olympic coach and stuff, and like I said, me and him, we came up in the 80s. He went to the Olympics in 89, 92.
Yeah.
And we fought the same guy and stuff. And it's funny because my boy will say, Coach Billy acts just like you, or Billy just said the same thing as you. and stuff.
And you're like, this is the right guy.
I just knew and stuff, and you made a connection right off the bat. But Coach Billy Walsh has a lot of influence on him, and can get him to perform.
Yeah. So this one comes from another big fan, and it says, he was a smart kid in high school.
Yes, valedictorian.
Top of his class. I didn't know that. I'm reading it right here. He could have done anything. Why did he stick to boxing?
You have to ask him 100% for that one. But knowing, boxing like I do, knowing him, there's just something about that rush. There is something about, luckily,
Dopamine.
that, man, I just something else.
Do you remember the rush when you were boxing?
You walk on air, man. You walk on water and stuff. That rush is just, it's indescribable. When you get in that ring and stuff, you go through battle with a man-on-man, and at the end they raise your hand, you won that. It's like, man, there's just something about that. No greater feeling. You hit somebody, boom, and you drop them. As a guy, that testosterone shoots up, and you're like, man, you rule. He had a lot of opportunities. I remember when he went to, before he went to Olympic Training Center, after he graduated, I had always told him, this is a plan, this is a plan, this is a plan. And he'd say, after he graduated, he says, Pops, what happened? I go, what do you mean what happened? He goes, well, I have a friend who's going to college on a scholarship for this. He's doing this. He's doing this. I got nothing. Hold on. Wait. You just wait. And
you saw a bigger vision.
I said, wait. Okay. But, it wasn't coming as fast as, the kid wants to. He's graduating and stuff. Says, hold on and stuff. So I called the training center. I says, hey, thanks, guys. We're gonna turn pro. No, wait. We got a new program starting up. We want to see if you be part of it. We haven't worked out the kinks yet, but hold on. Don't turn pro yet. And I says, that's Matt. And I said, Matt says, hold on. Let me get back to you. So he calls me back in a week or two and says, we're starting the program again, the in-house, I forgot what they called it, and so the resident program at the Olympic Training Center. The last one was Dante Wilder. And then, then they stopped it because the funds dried up. Boxers are boxers, they didn't like them on the campus too much sometimes. But we're going to start this up, and we would like your son to be the first one to come back and be a resident at the Olympic Training Center for boxing. Okay.
Great
opportunity. Good. So we rented a big truck and took him to Colorado Springs, dropped him off. Had mom crying all the way.
But he was excited?
You know what? He was excited and nervous can be and stuff, but you know how that goes and stuff. I've worked all my life for this stuff. Nothing's come to be, but now I have it. Now I got to perform. Yeah. And Billy, 100% honest and stuff, he's got a character, man. It's funny as heck. Billy told my wife one time and stuff, he says, we like your son a whole bunch. We like him a whole lot. So, but this is a performance-based program. And my boy knew that. So I'm taking this risk. I'm taking over there. I'm going over here. Man, with great risk is,
great reward.
So he was nervous about that, but just like any fighter, you talk to him and says, "Were you scared to get in that ring?" Mike Tyson, hell yeah! Every time I got in that ring, every time I sparred, and it's not a scared like I'm gonna cry. It's a scared like I hope I perform. I hope I don't embarrass myself. I hope I do what I need to do. And sometimes you look across that ring, you see this big guy with muscles, and you're like, man, he's gonna hit hard. And all you do is like, yep, bite down your mouthpiece and go out. When that bell rings, go do your thing. But that's life, That's life. Sometimes you face adversity like, hell, I don't want to do this. Who wants to do that, Illness, sickness, money, things and stuff. Sometimes you just got to bite down that mouthpiece and say, let's go.
That's another bumper sticker.
Right? Yeah, I know.
We talk about having guests on here who say really profound things that we got to put on a bumper sticker. Sometimes you got to bite down on that mouthpiece and say, let's go.
Yep.
So one of my friends here was wanting to ask about any up-and-coming South Valley boxers you see, like, hey, this might be the next guy.
Well, I'm gonna be biased, and so I got a fighter, Josue Ceja.
Josue Ceja.
Yeah.
Have you ever said this out loud at all?
Yeah, I tell my fighters all the time. I'm very truthful in them. You got to know your fighters, and one thing my fighters know about me, I'll tell you. I'll hurt your feelings. I'll do what I need to do, and so. That's ultimately for your safety and it's for the good of the club. But I've talked to him myself. So I says, you got some potential, man. Don't screw it up.
How old is he?
He's probably 17, 18 now.
So he's still in high school?
No, he just graduated.
Oh,
just
okay.
graduated last year and stuff.
Is he from Tulare?
Yes, he's
Okay.
from Tulare originally.
What was his reasoning behind getting in the ring?
His purpose.
Yeah.
You know, he's a Mexican kid that, you know, I want to test it out, you know. I think all little boys, all little girls, everybody, at one time or another, you're going to say, am I that guy? My son said that to him, use that in his thing. Am I that guy? You got to figure it out. You got to find out. And how do you find out if you're that guy? You know, you hear all the stories about guys, he ran into the face of danger, he did all these things and stuff. Am I that guy? And stuff. And you got to test yourself. He came to the gym, his dad brought him and his three brothers, and just started sparring and stuff. And you know, sometimes, you know, you walk in and stuff, and there's times I'll say, man, I'm tired of this. I'll probably stop doing this as much. Then you see a kid coming like, ooh, this kid got some talent. He's fast. He moves well. Just some natural ring ability and stuff. And, you know, you pull him in and stuff. Why do you do it? Probably just to test himself out. And then we started making sure that we're giving him the opportunities to perform.
I have a kid in my class last year that was real sheltered, quiet, and didn't really. He moved into our school, but he loved boxing. And then we found that out. He started opening up and like, what do you want for Christmas? We were just brainstorming. He's like, oh, I think I'm going to get some gloves, or there was some other things he was going to get. Like, oh, you're really into that? Oh, he was big time into it, but real sheltered and quiet.
Yep.
And so I was like, well, maybe that was his opening to get that. You know, you got to have that something to
prove,
get off your
things
chest,
out.
yeah. And I hope he pushes through because you know, kind of, you know, real quiet guy in school. Maybe it helps his self-esteem a little bit. You know,
100%.
all that, and you see all that with these kids coming through there.
All the time. You know, my brother, we're different personalities. You know, family has different personalities. I got a brother, Robert. You know, you can't get him to say hello hardly. You know, but not because he's rude or anything. He doesn't talk. You know, I asked my dad one time, hey, has Robert always been real quiet? Yeah, we used to have to look in his crib to see if he was still there because he wouldn't cry, you know. And but boxing kind of brought him out of that shell, you know.
So what advice would you give this student of mine that's kind of wanting to
just keep hitting it, keep doing it, be successful. Just know that a setback doesn't mean the end of the road. You know what I mean? This is amateur stuff, and he's going and everything. There's still opportunity and stuff. Many times, boxers will come in and stuff, and they have a setback, they lose. Or coach scolds them or maybe and stuff. Oh, I'm done. I'm gonna do that. Nah, you can't do that. And so you have to have somebody behind you. Guys say, get in there.
Yeah.
You know, get in there. Don't give up. And so don't give up. You can't give up, man, because you know, no matter where you land after attempting to do this, it's gonna be better off than where you were.
All right, Ruben, you hear that? I'm going to send this podcast to him and see if he hears
Ruben?
it. Yeah, right, Ruben.
You know, okay, speaking of Ruben, I work at Golden, I'll say Golden, the Golden Bears, Sierra Pacific High School,
Yep.
right, Hanford. We have a guy there. He was our campus security. He's now our student specialist, Ruben Valavinos. He's got the PAL program.
He's the president of the association too.
Oh, okay, yeah. So we know Ruben on campus, right?
Yeah.
But then I see all the work that he's doing outside, and one of the things that just really blows my mind is how he'll take a kid who maybe, you know, is either doesn't have a direction or maybe headed in the wrong direction, and then he bring them in the gym, and he gets them to focus and start taking on all these positive traits, you know, and channeling that energy that at one point might have been going in the wrong direction to something good. I feel like you have that same approach where you try to channel energy to something positive. Do you feel like boxing could be like the next movement in mental wellness for schools?
It should be. Back in the 60s, they had boxing in high school. It was great. You know, sometimes they'd use it to settle, you know, disputes with the kids, what it may be and stuff. But there's always something, in my opinion and stuff, men are being emasculated a little too much these days and stuff. I can't be aggressive. I can't be outgoing that much and stuff. Yeah, there's directions that boxing will help focus at. Boxing does a good thing. Boxing helps build the fire, but it helps calm the fire too. Okay? Yeah, some kids that are just wild. I was a little kind of wild growing up, you know, compared to my brother. I was the black sheep of the family because I was a little more wild than everybody else. But it brought me down. It kept me in sort of, I can't do that because I got to do this. I can't do that because of that. But boxing should be in all schools, in my opinion, and stuff. You know, the hard thing with that is you need the right people kind of directing, so it doesn't become a gladiator sport. You know, but you find a good program. Ruben's awesome. Ruben's got something to prove. You know, I can't speak for Ruben 100%, but he has a love for the kids. He has a love for the community.
Yeah.
He loves boxing and stuff. Frank Mosley, his mentor and stuff, was in the corners when I was fighting his fighters back in the day and stuff. So we all know each other, small community and stuff. But Ruben's got something to prove. But boxing does wonders for kids.
I've seen that.
Wonders and stuff, because you know what? And that connection and the coach is able to make with the kid and stuff. Because when you go under fire, you know, you got your buddies and stuff, and you guys do some crazy stuff and everything, and you're this close to really getting hurt or really losing your life. Then you walk out of that place and you're like, there's a bond there, man. There's a bond there between you and your buddy and stuff. Same thing with a coach and a fighter. Coach gets in there, fighter goes in there, boom, 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 gets hit. They're bleeding a little bit. They come back to the corner. You wipe their nose and you say, now I want you to go back up there and do it again. What the hell? You know, and you know what that fighter would do? Yes, coach. What kind of trust is that for a kid to have with somebody? And that's it, man. The kids have so much trust in the coach and stuff. Sometimes I remember my dad going to the houses and stuff, and the parents saying, "Hey, Manuel, come talk to this guy. He's messing around. Hey, you sure you want to do that?" Well, and they listen to coach rather than the parents sometimes. So work as a community to get that done. So, but that bond that is created in the gym, it's amazing. I try to get police officers to come into my gym. I'm like, come on in, let's talk to these kids and stuff. Because if you're sitting there sweating something, you see them, you know, trying to hit the bag, and you're working, there's a bond there that's created. So those people who don't drink beer and hang out at the bars like Cheers, come to the boxing club, because that's a family that we all love being part of.
Wow. And that's, want to get this right, Tulare Boxing Academy? Or
Tulare Athletic Boxing Club.
Tulare Athletic Boxing Club. We're going to put the link to your website, because I really want people to see the work that you guys are doing. So, Richard, I came up with this recently, and I was thinking about how, as an educator or as a trainer, even as a father, right, you are presented with a body of water, in this case, a still pond, right? And it's your job to take whatever that stone is, that effort, that message, whatever, and you drop it in, it creates a ripple effect. The ripple effect that you've created in the Central Valley boxing community has been felt throughout the world. You know, with what you started with your father Emmanuel, your brother Robert, and now your son Kiki, right? And I feel like what you've brought to boxing, especially here in Central Valley, is life. You brought life. This is yours as a reminder of everything good that you're doing for us as a community, and you give us life and hope and excitement. And I think there's going to be a lot of young Central Valley boxers who want to be the next Kiki Torrez or Jose Ramirez or all these guys. Even Josue. What was Josue's last name?
Ceja.
Josue Ceja. Hey, you guys heard it first here on RobLive. Okay, Richard said that's the potential future. So we're going to follow him as well. And we wish you guys continued success. And we're gonna be watching the whole time.
Sounds good. Hey, I want to give a little shout out to my coaches and stuff.
Absolutely.
Because like you're saying, sometimes I go in there like, hey, Torres did it. Man, I got a lot of support. I got a lot of great guys. I got Gonzalo Lara. He's new to the groove. He's been with us for about a year, retired truck driver. Came through, did some boxing down in L.A., some coaching, officiating. Does an awesome job. Fit in really good, well. I got Chris Campos. He's a nurse here in Fresno. He works in Fresno as a nurse.
Gonzalo, Chris.
And they come through and they do awesome. And they run the gym. I can have the confidence to leave the gym and know that they're running the same program that I expect them. Yeah, that's it. And I have many guys come through many times and say, no, he's not the right fit. You got to have a right fit for the gym. But they do an awesome job in my family. My wife, and my brother Robert still comes and sets up my ring when we have boxing shows.
Wow.
So everybody pitches in and stuff. So I got a great support crew that helps out, and my wife who puts up with my crap all the time. But
shout out to Kim.
20 years, 4 times a day, 4 times a week, weekends going on. She's put up with it.
Yeah, no, and I think that's a great reminder to all of us is that everything requires a team.
Yep.
Right, and if you think that you're gonna, this is what I was told recently: if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together.
Yep.
And, you know, that's a great reminder for all of us. I want to thank you once again, Richard, for taking the time. There's a million places you can be, you know, and we don't take this lightly. We know ESPN's calling. We know everybody's calling you. And today you chose a small Central Valley channel that's trying to make it on our own. Maybe we're the next.
Hey, there we go.
Yep. So from me, Rob Izquierdo, from James Chance, and now Richard Torrez Sr., this is RobLive. Please like and subscribe. Please follow. Please support Tulare Boxing. Follow all the descriptions and links that we share. Continue to support Richard and his son Kiki on their journey along with all the other boxers and the family. Shout out to Chris, right?
Chris Campos
and Gonzalo
Lara.
Thank you guys as well for all the work you're doing. Shout out to your son, Richard Kiki Torrez. Thank you for being a inspiration to all the boxers out there in the Central Valley trying to make it. Until next time, this is Rob Izquierdo saying love, peace, and chicken grease. This is RobLive, and we out.